Hello, my name is Jake Smithwick. I'm a researcher and project manager with the Performance-Based Studies Research Group at Arizona State University. Today, what I want to talk to you about is some of the research efforts that we've done throughout the state of Minnesota, and really how we've taken the best value concepts and expanded them to other organizations throughout the state. The first one I'd like to talk about is the University of Minnesota. They got started with best value in about 2007, and their approach was very smart. They started very small with about 7 projects in roofing, mechanical, electrical, and just very small type of projects. These initial projects were very successful. They had less than 1% cost and schedule change orders, and really at the end of the day, the owner was very satisfied with that. So with these initial high performance results, the university decided to expand the project in the process to other larger and more diverse types of projects throughout the university. Now, one of the unique things that the best value structure brings is this performance reporting structure. And what this is we take the weekly risk report from each project and we summarize those up into the overall performance at that institution. Now, the weekly risk report is simply an Excel file that summarizes each project in terms of any deviations from the baseline cost and schedule expectations. These are submitted on a weekly basis, usually on Fridays, to the owner's project manager, any other critical stakeholders, as well as ASU. So with this information and the weeklies from all the different projects that an owner runs, you can really begin to identify key performance information at your institution based on the weeklies and the information. So this is an example of what the weekly risk report can provide. We see that you can divide performance by project managers throughout your organization, but also not just these key people. You can look at different academic units, for example, at a university, different departments, and also different types of projects, mechanical, general construction, electrical, all because of using these weekly risk reports. One thing the university also did is that we surveyed each project manager at the university after their best value project was completed. So we surveyed all together about 6 different PMs and collected about 185 different surveys. And as you can see, the project managers were very satisfied with the overall project. They rated the process 9.7 out of 10, and the contractor 9.5 out of 10. So with these initial high performance results at the university, the contractors really saw a lot of value out of it because of the best value approach to minimizing risk and aligning expertise. When you have an expert and you let them do their job, the projects have to turn out more successfully. All parties will be more successful, align the resources better, and help deliver a better project. So for these reasons, the contractors lobbied the legislators to take the process and allow other entities throughout the state to use best value. So in 2007, the contractors went to the legislator, who was also very perceptive to these ideas and saw that, yes, there is a lot of value in allowing the contractors to be the experts. So after the law was changed in Minnesota, different schools, cities, and counties can now use the best value structure to procure construction. So in the last 5 years, different owners have begun using the system, and recently we began expanding into non-construction services. So this includes software projects and different types of services that we've been looking at throughout the state. Now, what's also been interesting is that the contractors are now becoming the source of best value in Minnesota. And what that means is that the contractors bring the best value philosophy and the structure to new owners throughout the state. And the reason why this is so important is that in a government institution, many times the leadership may change out quite frequently. So when the leadership changes out, any unique aspects of that entity may go away. So when you have the contractors that understand the process and the philosophy behind it and can bring the best value approach to different entities, it minimizes the fluctuation that might happen from changes in leadership. So to kind of summarize here, the keys to sustainability within Minnesota is, first off, we started with an agency that had wide impact throughout the state, which was the University of Minnesota. The vendors really bought into the idea of letting them control the project, be more efficient, and really utilizing the expertise of these contractors. And as a result of that, the initial projects were highly successful. So if you think about it, if you have a change effort whose initial efforts aren't really that successful, the likelihood of long-term sustainability of that process is pretty low. And lastly, we really had the application of the philosophy throughout the entire supply chain, from contractors, the owners, and also public officials really bought into this idea of using best value to deliver better value for the owner. So this slide presents the overall performance of different entities and owners throughout Minnesota and how their best value projects have gone. What you see here is interesting is that the overall change order rate for contractors and designers has been very low. Almost no cost increases due to the contractors, and very few schedule changes, also due to the contractors. So when you have this documented performance, what this allows you as an owner is to publicly show and really increase transparency of a public official in terms of delivering these projects. So really the best value structure increases accountability of government institutions. One thing we also learned throughout Minnesota was the distinction of risk and capability. So risk is this idea of anything that stops an expert from being successful on the project, anything that they don't control. Capability are things that make them an expert. Where have they done this project in the past, and how successful have they been? So in this first example, we see a vendor propose that the risk is that there might be misalignment of the proposed software solution within the owner's expectations. And their solution to this is to embrace the current business processes and then to extend those processes with new functionality. And as you continue reading this first risk, you'll see that the identification of what the risk actually is and how they're going to minimize that risk is not very clear. It seems to be some sharing of the risk between the contractor and the owner. And what we found out in Minnesota is that when you try to share risk, the project and subsequent meetings, because of this idea of sharing risk, is not very effective. So what we recommend is that contractors very clearly identify the risks they see on their project, and the risk should not be included inside of their cost proposal, because risk typically is paid for and caused by the owner. Now in the second example, we see that the proposer clearly identifies that the networking and hardware requirements of the owner may not be sufficient to support the new system. So that's clearly the risk. The software supplier, the software contractor, in this example, may not, the owner may not have sufficient hardware resources to support the new software system. So their solution is to identify all the requirements up front and provide that to the staff and to the city prior to moving forward with the project. Now what's also interesting is that this software vendor provided past implementations and how those have been successful. On the second example, we're looking at project capability. So on the top example, the approach used by our team has been hundreds of modernization efforts and offers the following benefits: current business processes, business rules, and regulatory policies that are valuable to the owner will be embraced and extended. Again, this particular capability is not really supported by actual project performance that shows why they're a high performer. On the bottom example, you can see that their performance and their customer service is documented by actual project indicators. So they reduced response times by an estimated 50% or more, and costs have reduced by an estimated 30%. These customers rated their overall satisfaction with the application and the implementation at 10 out of 10. So on the bottom one, they provide specific, verifiable performance metrics that show their high level of performance. What I'd like to conclude this presentation with is a summary of Intermediate School District 287 in Plymouth, Minnesota, and some of the best value projects that they've run. Now the school district is made up of about 12,000 students with about 12 member districts, and their first project was in 2011. And at the time, this project was a $27 million project and was the first of its kind, the largest of its kind, done in Minnesota. So the district, the owner's representative at the time, attended a IFMA World Workplace presentation in 2009. They heard about the Best Valley structure and thought that it made a lot of sense, was very logical, and would really help them minimize some of the challenges they've had on previous projects. And mainly they identified that the Best Valley system has a structured pre-planning phase before the contract begins. It has a weekly risk report, which the owner can use to document the performance of his project. And really the Best Valley structure was flexible and adaptable to their unique needs at the school district. So the first thing we did is that we compared two different projects at the school district. Facility 1 was a traditional low bid project, and Facility 2 was our Best Value, also design bid build project. These projects were fairly similar in scope. The Best Valley project was about $6 million larger in size, also in square footage. And here's some other basic information about the project. Now, the owner identified that some of the challenges with the traditional approach is that it requires a high level of owner oversight, which means you have to tell the contractor what to do and how to do it. And this approach is very time-consuming for all parties involved. Secondly, on Facility 1, the owner identified that they had a lot of different contracts with lots of different entities, and just managing all these different contracts is time-consuming. And lastly, the closeout process on their traditional project was not very well documented. They couldn't identify the overall performance on the project and what value that they got, from Facility 1 on the traditional project. So in looking at change orders between the two projects, we see that the Best Valley project had about 74% fewer change orders compared to the traditional process. They also used 40% less of the contingency budget, meaning that they have a set amount of money up front set aside for contingencies, and 40% of that was used less compared to the traditional process. The contract was much more proactive and really became the leader in terms of how this project was actually delivered. We also compared this Best Valley project, the NEC, to other projects throughout Minnesota. And its performance was also very comparable to other projects throughout the state. The district and the facility representative won several awards because of this project. And really the project was very successful. And as you can see from these pictures, and the owner's overall satisfaction was really outstanding. So when you get a high performer and you let them do their job, through performance measurement, the project has to turn out better. And that's exactly what we saw at District 287. So in summary, the Best Value process provides a formalized structure to help align expectations of all the different parties involved at the site. And really what we're doing is we're using the expert's vision and expertise to set the expectation for how the project will be delivered. And really, because of Best Value, we communicate in terms of performance information, in terms of on budget, on schedule, and overall customer satisfaction. Thank you very much for your time today. If you have any questions, please contact us.